I work around the corner, straight behind the train station, where you will find the University of Hamburg's Chair in Journalism and Communication Studies. It's a pleasure for me to welcome in my hometown Hamburg on stage 3 of the world-leading experts in new media training, Finberg, Joyce Barnathan, and Tarek Atia. The goal of this session is to look at what is being done right and what could be done better in training for new information ecosystems. The topics of our presentations are particularly pertinent to those of you who are looking for the beat of the next media generation, and I hope we will have a nice and very vivid morning session. At the end, there will be enough time for Q&A, and I'm very interested in your ideas for innovative media training. Let's start with our first speaker, Finberg, Director of Interactive Learning at the Poynter Institute. He is responsible for News University, an e-learning portal that has more than 125,000 users. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our first speaker, Finberg.
Good morning. I wonder, before we get started, if we could have the little device that would move the slides forward. Is that possible? Either that or I'll have to say next slide all the time. No? Is there a clicker in the house?
I have one.
Yes? Christopher, where have you hidden your clicker? Okay. This is probably the most important technology that we'll use today. I'm absolutely delighted to be here, and listening to all the conversations over the last 2 days, this is a particularly important topic for this group, because no matter what it is that you're going to try to do in the next 5 years, it is absolutely essential that training be part of the equation. It's not just about the journalism, although that's the most important thing. It's not just about the technology, although that's essential too, but it is about the training as well. How will we achieve our goals if we do not train the people that we need to accomplish those goals? So one of the things that we wanted to do was to look at that topic, and we're absolutely delighted to work with Bertrand on this session today. For those who are not familiar with the Poynter Institute, let me briefly explain who we are and our perspective on the issue of training. We are a school for journalists, journalism students, and media leaders. We were founded 35 years ago as part of the legacy of Nelson Poynter, the owner of the St. Petersburg Times, a very well-established regional newspaper. And when Mr. Poynter made out his will, he decided he did not know his grandchildren, wasn't sure he was going to like them or respect them as related to his legacy, and gave the stock of the newspaper to the school. And the school is very singularly focused on a mission of making better journalists in service of democracy. 5 years ago, we started our e-learning site, which is called News University, or for short, NewsU. It was funded on behalf with a very large and a generous grant from the Knight Foundation, which is now running its course, and we are always grateful for our Knight family godfathers who helped us get started. We launched in 2005, so we just celebrated our 5th birthday, and this is we also used that occasion to relaunch our site, and this is a screenshot of today's NewsU, which is an e-learning portal. It is an e-learning portal with a very specific mission, and a mission to serve editors, and a mission to serve publishers, and a mission to serve teachers. We are open, and there is no cost to register. It is just, we just want to know who you are. One of the things that makes News University different in terms of e-learning is the fact that we use sort of these 4 Fs. We're focused, flexible, and fun, and financially accessible for the courses that we do charge. It's a modest fee. We have more than 150 training modules, and a great portion of them are multimedia based, since that's the topic that matters. And more important, we believe in measuring and helping others measure their success and finding ways that we can give the feedback. What we want to do is encourage a culture of individual learning. And I think that is essential if we look towards the future, whether it's iPad or something else, that it is the individual who has to take responsibility for training, encouraged by leadership. This is not something that can be done top-down. It needs to be both top and bottom coming together and encouraging and finding ways to go forward. I always like to show this chart because it's like a parent who is very proud of their child, and this is the baby picture into high school at this point. As of right now, we have about 161,000 registered users, predominantly journalists, writers, reporters, editors, although increasingly students and those who are interested in practicing journalism-based skills. Because when you think about the future and we talk about citizen-based journalism or community-based journalism, it's also important to think about how we will train them in the values and skills necessary to practice journalism. And while we want professional journalism to lead the way, we also want to find ways in which we can raise the understanding and awareness of journalism. And we have lots of experience in multimedia training. Our 3 most popular courses are listed there: 5 Steps to Multimedia Storytelling, Video Storytelling for the Web, and Writing for the Ear, which is aimed at helping people understand how to deal with audio. So this is all fine. It gives you a background of our perspective of who we are as trainers. But more important, we wanted to answer the question, does multimedia training work? And so we took it on ourselves to create a survey and reach out to not only our users, but people who have attended other conferences and people, frankly, who did not know of us, and try to answer the question, does it work? Did it get us better? Was the investment in training, for those who have made investment in training, did it pay off? And while all surveys are always based on the assumption that the participant is going to be as truthful as possible, we think we have enough responses in the list we can give ourselves a real round of applause, because in the past 5 years, 84% of people who responded to our survey have received some sort of multimedia training. So in that sense, we've made some great progress. We have started to train our staffs. I clearly wonder about the other 16%. Are we going to leave them behind? This number should be 100%. Everybody should have multimedia training by this point. And if you don't have a program in your organization, I'm going to advocate that you do something, anything. The big question at hand, of course, is this working? Does this work? What we wanted to know, and this is typical of when we do measurement and evaluation, is it made me better? Has it helped my organization? Has it helped me do my job? So we asked that question of the people who had not only taken workshop training, but did in-house training, that have done self-directed training, e-learning, any form of training. So, of those who said they agree or strongly agree, 70% said that the multimedia training has made them smarter. I was actually stunned by that high number. And while we can celebrate this, again, it's a glass half full, glass half empty. Can we do better? Should we do better? I would argue absolutely, because this is not a declare victory and move on. This is a case of where we have to say, we can do it, and now we have to keep doing it. Multimedia training I have received has made me better at my job. Now this, for a publisher or an editor, is pretty much the essential reason why we do training. If we make people better at their job, it will make better journalism, it will make better products, whether they're on the iPad or on a piece of printed paper. And then finally, multimedia training I've received has helped my department, program, or organization. So you can see that through all three of those measurements that we have seen success and that multimedia training does indeed work. Overall, 5 years ago, most of the participants believed their skills were non-existent or poor. Now we used a scale, a 5-point scale of 1 being non-existent and 5 being expert, with in between poor, proficient, experienced. Clearly we want people to be on the experienced and expert level, although proficient is okay. Because not everybody can be expert at everything, but everybody needs to know about all forms of multimedia, as they do need to understand all aspects of the journalism that they practice. So as of today, that number from 62% of poor or non-existent has dropped to 22%. Now that's the good news. I think the bad news is that 1 out of 5 journalists that we surveyed do not have the essential skills for going forward. If you do not have understanding of the way the world is in terms of multimedia, doesn't matter how many iPad applications that you put forth, you will limit the potential of those applications, that new way of reaching audiences, because you will not have the entire staff to support those efforts. In looking at specific skills that we ask questions about, project planning, 23% proficient to expert 5 years ago. Today, 60% of those who were surveyed believe they've gotten better. I think this is an improvement, but this area, this ability to understand how to put together a multimedia project is absolutely essential if we're going to be able to think in multiple products. Now, multimedia is not just audio, video, and that like. It encompasses all the ways that we can use multiple media to reach our audiences. In terms of video, 22% proficient 5 years ago. That number has gotten up to 55%. Clearly, video has actually improved a great deal. But for a lot of organizations, that still means about half the staff does not have any understanding of how to put together a compelling video story. Photography, I think mostly because we are comfortable as amateur photographers, that many felt they had the skills necessary 5 years ago, and this is the area where we saw the smallest amount of movement, 61% to 75% proficient to expert. Now, interactive design, which encompasses a lot of things. This is the skill that includes things like programming, flash-based kinds of skills, the ability to look at data manipulation and data visualization. This is the area in which we will need more and more people to be proficient and expert for more and more devices. This is the area of where journalism, technology, and programming all come together to produce the kinds of things we looked at yesterday during the tablet session. 9% proficient to expert. I think we made some great strides to 22%, but that's not where we need to be if we're going to accomplish a future that is bright for our companies. some observations about what we're seeing in terms of the numbers. The assumption is the more you put into training, the more you put training into practice, the higher the rating. And that has actually been proven. And that nothing replaces learning by doing. It is our contention that giving the training is one thing, but putting it into practice is absolutely essential if you want to see the kinds of improvements that will propel the organization forward. And while training time matters, it doesn't matter quite as much as I think most people think. This is not about sending people away for 3 or 4 weeks at a time. This is not about university-based courses. That heavy amounts of training, 80+ hours in the course of a year, do not necessarily show the same proportion as moderate amounts of training. In other words, the message here is moderate amount of training can have just as big an impact as trying to establish a much more time-intensive program. This is probably one of the more interesting findings for us because what we do is self-directed training at NewsU, but we also do workshops and seminars at the Poynter Institute. That the difference in workshop versus self-reported was almost non-existent, and that conferences and webinars work, but they don't work quite as well. And I think that's somewhat restating the obvious, but it is also worth noting that workshops and self-directed are equally effective depending on how they're constructed and thinking about how you're going to measure and accomplish your goals. Finally, looking at a predictor of success. What ways can we identify what's going to be successful by the participants of multimedia training? And while people report a high level of confidence that they can learn, the number one motivator for success and the one that actually matters the most is that I need to learn. Which really goes to the message that I hope that your organization has, is that there is a reason why you're getting the training. It's because we need to move our organizations from here to here. Give them the motivation to learn. Give them the reasons. Give them the background. So motivation is the number one driver for training being successful, much higher than the self-reported ability that they have confidence that they can learn. People learn when they have to learn. And they learn by doing. So, what's next? Every year there's some new tool, there's some new approach, there's some new platform. Obviously, the training cannot stop. What I have shown you is a snapshot of where we are right now. We are not complete. We don't have everybody trained, nor can we stop training. Your staff keeps cycling, they keep changing, tools keep changing. We do not have the luxury of declaring victory and moving on. This is not mission accomplished in any sense of the word. This is, we have shown that it can work. We need to continue to make it work more. We still have the barriers of time, money, and frankly, what we saw in some of the responses, an energy issue. I'm so busy, I'm so overwhelmed. What your staffs are telling us is that they need direction, they need clear goals, and they need a way of someone focusing them on things that will make a difference to move forward. So we need to keep moving those skill levels, okay? And we need a lot more training, because when we ask the participants what they will do in the coming year, almost all the respondents said that they'll get less than 10 hours of training a year. And that is insufficient. Now, I should have made a slight caveat that most of the respondents come from North America. So in that sense, it is a picture of an ecosystem that is maybe a predictor. Sometimes I've heard the American newspaper experience is the canary in the coal mine. But I think it gives us an opportunity to ask you to examine what are your multimedia training strategies for the future. So it is our belief that learning is no longer preparation for the job, it is the job. And this is the mantra that we use at the Poynter Institute. This is the sort of the slogan that we use at News University. And before I exit the stage, and I want to, because this is a World Editors Forum, bring to your attention a new project that we are delighted to be working with Joyce and ICFJ, which is NewsU International, which is to take our English-based training and transform it into other languages. I use that word transform and not translate. We believe that localization of content is absolutely essential to learning, whether it be in Persian, Russian, German, Arabic. The examples need to be relevant. The language needs to be appropriate. But the approach needs to be solid journalism, which is what we know at Poynter. We have 5 steps to multimedia storytelling in Persian. It will be one of our very first courses launched in partnership with ICFJ. So with that, I put my information up on the screen. I delight in talking to anybody about what it is that we do in terms of training. And Steffen, I will turn this back over to you.
Yes, thank
you very much for your kind attention.
Das funktioniert nicht mehr. Thank you very much, Howard. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our second speaker, Joyce Barnathan, President of the International Center for Journalists, a non-profit organization dedicated to advancing quality journalism worldwide. Joyce, we really appreciate to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steffen. Let me get the pointer here. As Steffen said, I'm the president of the International Center for Journalists, which was formed by journalists for journalists 26 years ago. And we've been around to try to raise the standards of journalists and media managers, and now increasingly with citizen journalists. And as Steffen said, our goal is to advance quality journalism worldwide so that we have freer flows of reliable information and we can all make better decisions in our lives. And ICFJ does that by developing innovative programs targeted towards quality journalism and raising standards. And we have hands-on workshops, seminars, fellowships, conferences, online courses that are enabling us to reach journalists in places we never thought we'd be able to reach before. And those of us in the media know that we're living in incredibly disruptive times. The definition of our field is changing. The definition of a journalist is changing. You know, when I was a reporter, I'd go out with my pad and paper, and no longer. Now you go out with your flip cam, your laptop equipped with wireless internet access, your smartphone, recording equipment, you name it, and all your stories go out on multiple platforms. We've heard a lot about our audiences are changing too. They demand to get stories however they want to receive them. They want to engage with the producers of news. And oftentimes they want to be producers of the news themselves. And with technology, the number of tools we can use to tell our stories are just absolutely exploding. This is a period of incredible experimentation and innovation in our field, and we really have to stay current and keep up with the change. This story, Top Secret America, if people have not seen it in the Washington Post, when you take a look at the story in the actual paper, it's a fantastic expose. When you go to the website, you see the full dimension of what the internet can do to make a story the best ever. The interactivity, the charts, the graphs, the usage of the internet just takes a great newspaper story to a completely different level. So, How do you stay on top of all this when you have to put out a daily newspaper or produce a steady flow of online copy 24/7 on your website? And the obvious answer is you have to train. I want to underscore that there are so many free resources out there, but you have to give your staff the skills to use them. So I wanted to make 4 recommendations based on ICFJ's experience in the field. First, and this is probably my most far out one, train your staff to engage your readers. Now, involving your readers will make you a stronger news organization, and I'm not just talking about asking readers to rate a story or to give their comments. I'm talking about finding a couple of skilled staffers to work with dedicated members of the community interested in producing stories that will expand your area of coverage and draw more readers to your papers and websites. Now, a lot of people think that innovation is locked up in the developed world, and we work in both the developed and the developing world, and most of my examples will be from the developing world, where there is a huge amount of experimentation and excitement in going on. And I wanted to cite an example in Malaysia, because this was an example of using citizen journalism to great success. MalaysiaKini.com is the country's leading source for independent news. And when we started a project there to begin a citizen journalism network for them, there was a huge amount of skepticism. We found it challenging at first to recruit the citizens to work as journalists, and the editorial staff was seriously and rightfully concerned about quality issues in citizen journalism reports. Would the citizen journalism work compromise the website's hard-won credibility as a news organization? So one of the first things we did when we looked at training citizen journalists, and something that we found that was very useful, was to train in video. Compared with print and even with radio, it was easier for us to monitor quality. 2 years later, this citizen journalism program is a resounding success, and it really did exceed our expectations. We trained 222 citizen journalists who produced 1,000 videos, and they got a remarkable 6.2 million views. Now, Malaysia Kini relies on its citizens to surface great news stories. Its editors are able to cover communities that got little attention before through its citizen journalists. And the citizen journalists from Penang have actually become like a de facto news bureau for the organization. Malaysia Kini has even hired several of these citizen journalists as full-time staffers now. And don't get me wrong, this takes time and effort. There are demands on staff time to mentor enthusiastic trainees. Some US news organizations are using journalism students in this way to provide stories on communities that they aren't normally covering. But by all accounts in Malaysia, it was worth the effort. Second is to train key staff to use the new tools and technology to enhance the delivery of news on your websites. There are so many exciting ways to slice and dice data now that will appeal to your readers. Traditionally, business journalists have been the ones who were very good at this, but it shouldn't stop with business journalism. There's a lot of talk, we've heard a lot of talk about free content over the last few days. Let me tell you that the benefit of a free web is that there are free resources that you can take full advantage of and make your newspapers even more interactive and your websites more interactive. You just need to have staff members who know the possibilities, and you have to have some key staff members who can apply the technology. I just wanted to give you a random sample of some of the amazing things you can do with data. This is a site called, I'm going the wrong way, sorry. Okay, this is VD data visualization. This is a free tool to create interactive timelines, pie charts, bar charts, and more. It's a one-stop shop for visuals that make data compelling. It's free. This is another site called Factual. It provides a simple way to build web and mobile apps. In this example, Newsweek used Factual to provide readers with a sortable list of the best high schools in the United States. This is Google Fusion Tables. It allows you to combine maps and data, and even allow your readers to contribute. In this map, you can see various poverty levels in Washington State and the United States over time. Many of you may have used this one, but it's Wordle. Wordle offers word clouds, and this is an absolutely wonderful way to illustrate, say, a politician's speech and see what words come up most often. And it really is just a very good snapshot of what goes on. Put the speech in Wordle, and you've got an incredibly compelling graphic about the speech. Let me give you an example of a project we've just started working on that uses new tools in an exciting way. Now, we're in the very early stages of this, but I just thought it would be a very interesting example for you to hear about. Our Knight International Journalism Fellow is developing a new digital mapping system that will allow participating media organizations to really improve coverage of corruption and crime in Panama. This site is called mipanamatransparente.com, and it's hosted by Transparency International. Our fellow got an unprecedented group of media organizations together, Panama's main media association, 2 major newspapers, and 2 television stations, and they've all agreed to use this map for trend and investigative stories. And here's how it works. Our fellow is using a free mapping tool developed in Kenya by a group called Ushahidi that will pinpoint citizen journalist reports on crime and corruption. The media groups are asking their readers to participate in this project, and our fellow is working with people in local areas to help populate it. The citizens will merely email, text in, or phone in instances, for example, of armed robbery, fraud, homicides, kidnapping, sexual assaults, car thefts, you get the idea. And the examples will be pinpointed on the map. Professional journalists will then try to confirm the veracity of the reports. And if the report was confirmed, there'll be a green check mark on the map. Let me also tell you that there's new technology being developed now to try to determine through algorithms the veracity of citizen journalism reports. So this field is moving very, very, very quickly. And we're in the startup phase, but we think once this gets populated in a very intensive way, we think it's going to provide a real-time look at crime and corruption populated by citizens that will be the basis for a tremendous number of stories. In another case, we have a digital journalism center at the University of Guadalajara in Mexico, and in that program we ran a training course on public service journalism. And we train journalists also in using multimedia tools to report on stories that would be of service to the public. One of our participants from Peru also used a mapping system, and he asked citizens to text or phone in instances of taxi abuse. Apparently in Lima, there are a lot of unregistered taxi drivers. You get picked up by them and they take your money and leave you in some remote area, and this is a really chronic problem. So people started taking pictures on their cell phones of the license plates of the cab drivers and texting in all this information. It gained so much momentum that the government subsequently took action to require all taxi drivers to display official registration inside the taxi cabs. Okay, my third recommendation is to train your staff to be experts, and to train them to be experts in areas of intense interest to your readers. I think it's worth the investment. Somebody said you train your experts and then they can walk away. They can walk away. But I think that those people will be the ones who will really be the distinguishing factor for you. The blogs that are most read are the blogs by people who have something of value to say. They're the experts who offer opinions that people want to read. And I think that expert reporters are also able to find great stories in their fields that others may have trouble identifying. In Africa, we're helping journalists get the skills they need to become outstanding reporters on health issues, for example. We all know that there are some severe health issues and health problems in parts of Africa. And in some countries, journalists had absolutely no connections with the medical field. And over time, ICFJ has helped build health journalism associations, offered workshops with experts, these journalists now publish online newsletters on health, and the quantity and quality of stories are skyrocketing with this expertise. And now we're finding health officials are bringing great ideas to journalists with the know-how to cover them properly. And my last suggestion is to use the web to train. Now, we train in person. We send people in our night fellowships. We send people for a year to work on the ground on really important projects. But I want to highlight the importance of using the web to train because it's a relatively inexpensive way to do it, and the dividends can be great. I know that Howard talked about all the great offerings at Poynter, and you should check out the Poynter site. These are self-directed modules, and we are trying to customize those for international audiences. But ICFJ has launched a learning platform, and it's called ICFJ Anywhere. And it's enabling us to train journalists in places where it would be even difficult to send trainers. Like some of our participants come from Somalia, some of them come from Iran, and we offer courses in many languages. And one of the things that I might suggest to this audience in particular is a blended learning style, where we use instructor-led courses on a given topic. So the instructor runs the course. It can be on the multimedia training. It can be on any skill that you think your staff needs to know. You can reach a lot of people in these courses. And then you can identify who the best prospects are for in-depth training. By doing this, you can reach lots of members of your staff, and you can also identify the ones who have the talent and the eagerness to go to the next level. I mentioned that there are a lot of free resources out there on the web, and just our website alone, and ICFJ is not alone, but ICFJ offers 30 publications online in 24 languages on a variety of topics, including journalism ethics, investigative reporting, crisis coverage, election reporting, and more. And then there's YouTube's Reporter Center, which offers training videos on a number of topics, from interviewing techniques to production tips. And so does ICFJ also has something called the International Journalist Network, ijnet.org. And IJNet has an extensive library of videos and tip sheets in 6 languages, and we're soon going to add our 7th, which will be Chinese. So you don't have to have a huge budget to gain access to the technology. So much of it is free, but you need to use it and you need to customize it, and that's why you really do have to train your staff. It is a moving target, as Howard said. You can feel that you've learned the tools you need to get by today, but there are new tools that are coming on tomorrow, and they can enhance the way you do journalism. We're in the middle of this revolution, and we've got to keep a pace, or, as you know, we can become historical relics really fast. And really, it's my firm belief that journalism can be enhanced in this technological era, and we can be better journalists and better news providers if we step up and embrace the new tools and forge new partnerships. Thank you.